The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
There, let's try this. There we go. Welcome back, everyone. It's Thursday. What can I say? It's one of those days here in Niagara. And before we get to my very special guest this hour, Dr. Craig C. Hogan, just a bit of house cleaning that we have to do every once in a while to pay our bills. First of all, the 2023 Halifax Paranormal Symposium is taking place on Saturday, October 7 this year, between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. at the Halifax Tower Hotel and Conference Center in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Let me see. Some of the speakers include Chris Stiles, Dr. Daryl Walsh, Kim Moser, Lauren Coleman, and Dr. Richard Gallagher. There's also going to be on-site vendors. Let me see. Author Steve Vernon is going to be there. Paranormal Phenomena Research and Investigation / Ghost Project of Canada are going to have a booth. Maritime Investigation, Silver Birch Spirits Connections, and Maritime Haunting / Paranova Productions. For more information or to buy your tickets, if you're going to be in the Halifax, Nova Scotia area, visit www.ppri.net /tickets. Also, the September 2023 edition of the X Chronicles newspaper will be made public because what we do is we send it to our distributors. They hold it, they sell it for 2 weeks before we release it online and to our listening audience at www.xchronicles.net. And finally, Bart Sabrell. Remember him, the guy who got sucker punched by Buzz Aldrin in the video. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon. Has a brand new book called Moon Man, and it's available at Sabrell.com. This is the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, and Channel 32 on Simul TV. Dr. Craig C. Hogan is my very special guest. We're going to talk about, well, seeking reality. Dr. Hogan, welcome back. Great seeing you. Thank you for joining us.
What a delight to be here, Rob. You ask such wonderful, thought-provoking questions that I just enjoy talking with you.
Well, you know what, my friend? Having a guest like you on the show makes me think and ask those questions. So thanks very much for being with us. Always a joy having you with us. And how did you get involved in a life after death?
Well, actually, I had no belief in anything. For a while, I was actually a graduate professor at Wheaton College, very conservative Baptist college. But then I left that because I had found that it was not satisfying. There was nothing in religion that would help me. And so then I started meeting psychics. For some reason, they came into my life and I wasn't expecting them. But there they were, and they introduced themselves to me. And one of them said to me, you know, you have psychic ability. And so she said, you have a remote viewing ability. And what that means is that I can sit in my office in Illinois and I can look at something on somebody's desk in New Jersey and I can tell you what it is.
Wow.
And so I learned that I've got psychic ability. And as a result of that, I learned that there's much more to reality than what we see. And what we're doing, if we just rely upon what we see, is we're relying upon the baby version of reality. And the real version of reality is that the mind is not in the brain. That's why I could see things in New Jersey. And that we continue to live after the body stops functioning. We don't need the body. We don't need the brain. We just live on after the body stops functioning. And that's when I started to really delve into the afterlife communication, the nature of reality and consciousness. And I've been doing that ever since.
You know, my wife calls our body a meat suit.
That's
and
right.
once our meat suit ceases to function, we just go on.
Yeah, we just keep on going.
Yeah.
Keep on going because we don't need it.
I had a guest on the show, and I can't for the life of me remember who it was, who said, just imagine your wall filled with encyclopedia sets, Rob. I said, okay. And he said, what, as I see it, you start at the very beginning of all these books, and that's one life. Then you go to the next book, which is another life. And then you go to the next book, which is the other life. Is that how it happens, in your opinion, Craig?
Well, if you're talking about reincarnation, it is a little different than the popular conception of it.
Okay.
And what I'm going to be bringing to you is what we get from the other side. It's all in statements that we've gotten through mediums, through other media, and get this from them. And anything that I say has to be corroborated. So we've gotten it from sources in the other side. I don't make up anything. I'm not through. And so anyway, what they have been telling us about reincarnation is that we are individuals who stay individuals throughout eternity, but parts of ourself, parts of who we are, then can be incarnated in another person. So another person can come along. And that also means that who we are now is taking from parts of other people who've come before us. And we're learning lessons they may not have learned. We're finding out things they may not have found out. But we remain the individuals who we are throughout eternity. And we are just based upon, or we have a framework from that other person. That's how we get a past life regression.
Well, that explains why I'm always tired then.
Yeah.
What proof is there that we will never die, Craig?
We have the proof now because we have people coming from the other side regularly. We have 16 different methods of communication, and we're getting widespread hundreds of thousands of communications every year. And what they do is they tell the people whom they know on this side, people who love them, their children, their parents, their siblings, they tell them things about their lives that are going on at the current time. So they'll tell them things about what happened the night before when they had the communication. And they'll say that I saw that you were in the room and you were adjusting the pictures in the room. And I think I like the way that you put the pictures. And they'll say things about what's going on in our lives right now, which means they're very much alive. They're experiencing the same things that we're experiencing, and they can come and go from our life back into the life that they're living. So that shows that we will live on after the body dies with a certainty. There's no doubt about that fact, and that we will have reunions with all of those who went before us.
Craig, you mentioned 16 methods. What are they?
Well, let me give you a short list of them. Yeah. One of them is mental mediumship. We know about that. That's the medium who sits in a room and gives you readings. A second is physical mediumship. And a physical mediumship means that you sit in a room with this person who's very talented in physical mediumship. He's been given that ability. And as you sit in the room with that person, then people materialize from the life after this life. And we have one physical medium named Helen Duncan, who was in the 20th century. She did her seances in red light so that you could see the people coming out. They were materializing. They were coming out. Their loved ones came up to them and talked to them. They spent time with them. They asked them questions. They hugged them. They kissed them.
Wow.
All of this is in court testimony now because she was put on trial. And so it's in court testimony from at least 24 people who've been in seances with her. So that's a second method.
Okay, before we get to the next one, I have to ask you, how does something that is not in the physical world manifest, materialize to such an extent, rematerializing so somebody can hug them? How does that happen?
Yeah, we have an etheric body, which means that's a body that we have that's outside of our physical body. It's aside from the physical body. That's called the etheric body, and it's completely like the body that we have that's in the flesh. What happens in a seance is that there's a substance called ectoplasm that comes out of the medium's body. It comes out of the pancreas, And when it comes out of the medium's body, then it coats the etheric body of the person who's being materialized, so that their ectoplasm is just on the outside. It's just a surface coating, but it has all the characteristics of the person. It's their looks, their facial expressions, their voice is the same, and even any imperfections that they might have had are the same. And so then that ectoplasmic body that they are experiencing has all of the characteristics, and it can hug people and can kiss people. And so that's how a materialization happens.
Let me ask you this, Craig. Have you seen that yourself?
Yes, I've I've been in seances in which people have materialized. I've had a discarnate, a person from the other life, put his hand over top of my head to show me that his hand was real. I could feel the bones in his hand. And then during the same seance, then I had another person come through who was smaller, and he had put his hand on my head, and it was a smaller hand. And I've sat in seances next to people who have had their loved ones come up to them, talk to them, spend some time with them, and then hold their face in their hands and kiss them.
Lord.
Wonderful.
What an experience.
Yeah.
What was it like for you as a doctor and a highly trained professional to see this, to witness it, to feel it, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that life is everlasting?
Yeah, and that's what's exciting. Many people have difficulty understanding that and believing it's true. And we have such an exciting message for them, that all of the evidence that we have, all of the experiences that we have, show us the fact that this is true. And so for me, it was life-changing when it began to happen 20 years ago when I started this work. And now it's even life-changing every day. I'm learning new things. I'm discovering things. I'm seeing people speaking with their loved ones on the other side. We're teaching people how to do that. So we're teaching people how to have their own afterlife communications with their loved ones on the other side. And when they tell me the stories about the communication that they've had as a result of the training, they're just mind-boggling. They just are heartwarming, of people having experiences with their loved one, at whom many of them thought was lost forever. And now they know that their loved one is there, and they will follow.
Craig, what is the main message that those who come back to this side relay to mediums as well as to the loved ones that are so fortunate enough to just grasp that past moment one more time?
Yeah, it's wonderful. And the foremost message that they have for us is, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Don't cry. Don't feel so sad all the time. I'm still with you. You can call me anytime you want. You can call on me. I will come to you. And we eventually are going to come together in the blink of an eye. We're going to come together and have a wonderful reunion with you. Our pets are there. All of the people that we love are there. And we're going to have that reunion. And that's the truth. That's the evidence that we want people to understand.
In your professional opinion, Craig, do we need to fear death?
No, need fear death. Death is just a transition. It's like in the same way that we go from being a child into being an adolescent. It's just a transition into a next stage of our lives. So there's nothing to fear. And there actually is no pain at the point of death. So that when a person has been in an accident, for instance, they do not feel any pain. They're taken out before the accident happens. There's one story about a man named Swain who came through, and he described what happened when he made his transition. He was driving down the road in a car with his fiance's sister, and suddenly he saw something coming towards him. It was a semi-trailer.
Right.
And so then just a moment later, then he felt himself rising up out of the car, and he took the hand of his fiance's sister, and the two of them rose up, and 30 feet above, they watched the accident happen.
Wow.
So the people are taken out before those terrible things happen to them, even though they'll experience the feeling like if they're going down in a plane, they'll experience the dropping and the fear. But when it comes down to the crash, when it comes down to what happens, they're taken out before that happens. And we have much corroboration of that, many statements by people telling us that from the other side.
So it's just like the metamorphosis of a caterpillar to a butterfly.
Yeah, it's for a caterpillar, it's the end of life, but for the butterfly, it's the beginning of life. It's
Right.
the transition between the two. So it isn't a metamorphosis. It's a change that we experience, and we go on to the next life where we have bodies just as solid as the bodies in this life. Everything is much the same. There are rivers and streets and buildings and houses that we live in, but it's much more beautiful, and there aren't any of the drawbacks. There are, for instance, no wars. People can go in and out of houses. The doors don't have to be locked, and it's a different world, but it is very much like this world, and that's what we transition into when we leave the earth plane.
Dr. Craig C. Hogan is my very special guest, Exo Nation, a good friend of the Exo. And the website is reality. Seek Reality. For some reason, my words are getting mixed up today, Craig. I apologize. SeekReality.com. And Dr. Hogan and I will be back on the other side of the short break as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, and my very special guest, Dr. Craig C. Hogan. After this message, please don't go away.
Are you ready to dive into the mysteries of the unknown? Tune into the electrifying X Zone radio TV show hosted by the one and only Rob McConnell.
I'm Rob McConnell, and get ready for a mind-bending journey through the unexplained phenomenon that surrounds us all. From UFO encounters to cryptids, ghosts, and everything in between, we've got it covered here in the X Zone.
Rob McConnell, the seasoned investigator and renowned radio personality, brings you the most compelling interviews with top experts, authors, and experiencers from around the world. Each episode is an unforgettable exploration into the depths of the extraordinary.
That's right, Exo Nation. Join me every week as we open the door to the supernatural and explore the strange and amazing stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew.
And it's not just radio anymore. With our groundbreaking TV show, you can now witness the sessions unfold right before your eyes. From chilling reenactments to captivating visuals, prepare yourself for a multimedia experience like never before.
With a legacy spanning over 2 decades, the X Zone Radio and TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, is your ultimate source for mind-blowing entertainment and thought-provoking discussions. Join our growing community of truth seekers as we continue to unlock the world's mysteries.
So, why wait? Step into the X Zone and embark on a journey that will challenge your beliefs, ignite your curiosity, and keep you on the edge of your seat.
Remember, X Zone Nation, the truth is out there, and it's waiting for you right here on the X Zone Radio and TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't miss a minute of the action.
Tune in now on your favorite radio station or visit xzoneradiotv.com to join the adventure. The X Zone Radio TV show with Rob McConnell, where reality meets the unknown.
The X Zone Radio TV show, unraveling the secrets of the universe, one episode at a time. For more information, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com.
Dr. Craig C. Hogan is my special guest to this hour. Exonation, seekreality.com is the website. Craig, we were talking about the other side. Is the other side what religious philosophies call heaven?
It is the word heaven, you would say, is the other side, but they don't understand it. They don't portray it. What we have now is we have practically roadmaps of the afterlife because we get so much information now from people living there telling us what it's like. So we know how people are living there, what experiences they have, whether they have sports, whether they have gatherings, whether they are able to do the things that they were able to do on Earth. And we know that now. We know so much more about the afterlife, and we're trying to get people to understand that and to realize that it's a wonderful life that we're looking forward to.
What is the difference between life on the other side compared to the life that you and I trudge through every day of our lives while we're here?
This is the crucible. So we have chosen to incarnate into Earth School during this time when there are many hostilities and there's much anger in there and there's much animosity. And we've chosen to be here because of the fact that we wanted to learn lessons. We chose the lessons that we wanted to learn and then the settings in which we would learn them. But after we leave here, then we don't have to have those challenges. This is a period of rest after we leave here, and we can stay there and as long as we want in the next level. And we can then enjoy all of the experiences there. But there are no policemen, there are no soldiers, there are no morticians, none of those things that we experience on the earth plane. And people who were those things, for instance, were morticians, when they go on to the life after this life, they can take up another occupation, something they've always wanted to do. And some of them come back as counselors to people who've just come over from this life. And they will find new ways of living because the life there is none of those drawbacks and all the wonderful things that we love about Earth.
So on the other side, do we eat? Do we sleep? Do we have sex? Are children born?
Yeah. Okay. Let me take those one at a time.
Sure.
Do we eat? We may eat if we want to. So if we expect to have food, if we expect to be able to eat, then the food is just there. We don't have to ask for it. It's simply there. If we wanted to drink, then the drink is there. We don't have to ask for it. And we can even have a glass of wine. It doesn't inebriate us. It doesn't create the same kinds of a buzz that we get on the earth plane, but it is something which we can, if we want to imbibe, we can do so. The people there, if they want to have sex, then they are able to do so. So everything there depends upon what our expectations are, what our desires are. The things that we want are simply there, and we can enjoy those things to the extent that we want to, as long as we want to. In fact, there's one story about a man who he wanted to have sexual partners, and he communicated back through from the life after this life, and he actually after a while got tired of that was no longer enjoyable to him, but he had a satiated experience with his lovers on the other side.
So why would we have to work on the other side? Would this be a choice that we would have because we would just get bored of doing nothing?
Yeah, we are able to do the things that we want to do on the life after this life. So we're doing things. Everything is a hobby. So in other words, instead of a job there, you have what amounts to a hobby because you're doing it because you love it. People are building houses there, and they build houses because they love the people for whom they're building them. They don't get paid. There is no money. There's no need for money. People do things out of love. But everybody who wants to pursue something, you wanted to be a pianist, or you wanted to be an artist, or you wanted to have some other abilities,
right?
You can pursue them and you can enjoy them in the life after this life because everything is available to us. None of it is a job in which we go to every day to a job that we hate and don't want to be there and are looking forward to the weekend. And it's nothing like that. Everything that we do there is because we love it.
Does everybody go there? Does everybody who's been on this planet, every pet, every animal, every living creature go there?
So the first part of it is, yes, everyone will go on to the life after this life. There is no hell. There never was a hell. That's a fiction that was created by the early church. So there is no hell, but there are darker regions. In other words, people who are hostile, they carry that hostility into the next life. They are the same people they were before they went into the next life. And so they're with other people who are similarly hostile. And they live in areas that are darker and dingier, and there are screams and shouts, and it's rather like the worst places on earth that we know about. And so then there are those kinds of places, but the people who are living there only because of their own expectations, because of their own predilections, and they can rise up out of that. They will eventually rise up. Everybody rises up from there and goes up to the higher levels, and we will spend time in what's called third level or Summerland. And that's the wonderful place where we're able to live as we want to live. We're with people we want to live. And you asked about animals. All of our pets are there. They're waiting for us. People describe when they speak to us from the life after this life, they describe their pets running up to them and jumping on them, and every pet that a person had. As far as animals are concerned, does a deer, or does a beaver have a soul? As far as we know, they don't.
Why?
Because of the fact that they are not conscious like human beings are. They're not loved by human beings. If they're loved, if there's a squirrel that somebody brought into the house and loved that squirrel's going to be there. But just the animals in general. Now, some people will disagree with that.
Yeah.
Some people will say, no, every animal has a soul. Every animal's going to be there. And so we get information from the other side that is of both countenances. And so I would say that just to be upfront about it, we are not sure about that, but we do know that our pets are there. Any animal that we love is there.
Summerland, wasn't that a TV show?
I don't know. It would be a wonderful TV show, though.
Craig, can you check that out for me, please, and get back to me? Thanks, buddy. Where is this place?
It isn't really in a place. It's in a change of focus. So what that means is that we are already in, geographically, everything is in one place, and we just change our focus from this life into the next. It's rather like we're standing and watching a waterfall. We turn around and we're looking at a cliff. And that's what it is when we make the transition. It's all in one place, and we just are focused differently. It's rather like changing channels on a TV or radio. So when we change a channel, we go on to another channel, but the radio is still in one place. The TV is still in one place. And so that everything exists, but it's not geographical. Geographical pertains to the earth plane. And it's so that we can learn lessons here.
Could this be another dimension?
Yes. So that it is much like the word dimension. It's a good word for it, because it is rather like that. And so we know that people can change focus even as they live in this dimension by going into a meditative state and putting themselves into a position where they want to go into one of those other dimensions. So we know that is true, that people can do that, and people can astral travel. They can go out of body and they can travel. And so we know that it is just a change of focus. And we immediately, when we want to, for instance, when I remote view something out in New Jersey, I immediately remote view it. It doesn't take, it's not like there was electromagnetism that was going through space and was getting from here to there. It's immediate because of the fact that there is no space. It's an artifact of the earth plane. It's so that we can learn lessons. But in reality, it's just for us a change of focus. We stop focusing on the earth realm. We start focusing on the next realm.
Who created us?
Our universal intelligence. We are one with our universal intelligence. In other words, all consciousness is one. We are aspects of that consciousness, and we call it our universal intelligence. And some other people call it the source, or the grand unified state of being, and there are other names for it. But what this is it is the one source of all the things that are. We are all dreaming the same dream.
Is it a dream, or is this reality? And is the source what we commonly call God?
Yes. So what the source is what we commonly call God, but it isn't that there's an individual. So there's not an old guy with a long beard up on Mount Ararat. And this, what we call God, is really the source of everything that is. We are aspects of it. We are part of it. And we are at the same time individuals within it. So we are all manifestations of God.
So we're like a collective.
Yeah, but more, even closer than that, we are all one. So that in a collective, we can have individuals who are separate from each other, but we are actually all one. It's just that this surface, the bodies that we inhabit during this period of time, it seems like we're separate from each other, and we allow ourselves to enjoy that feeling of separateness and negotiating with each other and having love with each other and all of these wonderful things that we have because we are in bodies separate from each other. But underlying that, underneath that, we are one with each other. We're one with everything that is in the universe.
It almost sounds like Gene Roddenberry's interpretation of the Borg in
Yeah,
Star Trek.
and now the Borg is supposed to be a universal character, I think, a universal character who is all powerful, and then all of the characters then have some sort of a relationship to the Borg, and that's all I know about it. So
Yeah.
if that's true, then that is what it is.
How long? Let's go try and go back to the very beginning of all this.
Mm-hmm.
How did it happen? Like, there has to be a beginning for everything. Even in the Bible, it says, I am the Alpha and I am the Omega. So where is the Alpha in seeking reality?
Yeah, it has never had a beginning. It will never have an end. And that's difficult for us to understand because
It is.
we're in the world of beginnings and endings. So we're accustomed to that. Everything has a beginning, everything has an ending. But outside of this realm, the limitations of this realm, this play that we are in which we are the characters, outside of this realm, there are no beginnings, there are no ends. Now, having said that, what happens is that our souls will plan our lives, and then we will become a person who grow up in Earth School. We will learn things, we'll get our personalities, we'll have memories. So we have developed in Earth School, and so our unique self then has a sort of a beginning. We're still part of our universal intelligence. We are always part of it. We always were part of it. But our individual selves then really began in Earth School, and then will continue from here into the next realms.
Okay, so as I understand it,
yes,
we were created in order to learn and experience, and all our learning and experiences go back to the creator or the source.
yes.
Am I correct?
Yeah. And so actually, then we are still individuals. We will stay individuals for all of eternity. But we realize more our oneness with everything as we grow spiritually in the next realms of life. So when we go on to the next realms, then we will understand other people, we'll be more one with other people. And so in that way, then we are getting some characteristics from other people, but we're not merging in the sense of a drop of water into the ocean and then becoming part of the ocean again. That doesn't happen. We are individuals. They describe people who are on higher spiritual levels, and they say they are still individuals, even though they're on the higher spiritual levels.
But if the creator or the source is all knowing, and if we are part of the source or the creator, and we are able to transmit as well as receive, why do we have to go through all these learning processes if he or she or it already knows the answer?
Yeah, because we can only have these experiences through growth. So in other words, there's nothing to substitute for having these lessons that we learn, that we enjoy, going through this growth in love and compassion. The activity, the progress of going through that growth is something that can't be duplicated by simply waving a wand and making it happen.
So who is this experience for? Are we being used by the source in order to gain this data? Are we puppets for him and or her, and is there an aspect of manipulation here?
Now, what happens is that we have made a decision, our souls have made a decision that we would come into Earth School to learn these lessons that we're learning. And as a result of that, then all of our higher selves, which is what we're part of, all of our higher selves would learn more, would become more, would evolve into more of a loving, compassionate, sympathetic being. And so what we're doing is we are evolving into it. And at the same time, when we're evolving, all of humanity is evolving. Everything in our existence is evolving. So this world would look very different in another 10,000 years. If someone wants to incarnate into the Earth School, then it's going to be a very different Earth School at that time. But we've chosen to come into this stage of Earth's development because we wanted to learn lessons in this environment.
Craig, stand by. We've got to take our break at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating topic. Thanks very much for joining us. Food for thought is an understatement. This is a feast for thought. Dr. Craig C. Hogan is our guest. SeekReality.com is the website, and we'll both be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studio in St. Catharines, Ontario. But before I go, after watching and listening to our show, if you like the good old classics, you know, the Beach Boys, Dave Clark 5, the Beatles, Whitney Houston, all the greats from the greatest era of music that I believe there ever was. And I'll have to take that to the other side with me. There's a brand new radio station here that you can listen to online, as well as if you're driving your car anywhere through the province of Ontario, the GTA, all the way from Pickering, Ontario, down into the upper states. It's classic 1220. The call sign is CFAJ. And I'd like to say hello to three of the people that are there. They're good friends of mine. Joe Gurney, the chief engineer. Chuck LaFleur, great announcer. I had the pleasure of working with Chuck 30 years ago at 1220 CHSC, which is now CFAJ. And Pete Dichter, another friend of mine from way back when. So guys, congratulations on the launching of a great station. I love the music you play. And X-Zone Nation, do me a favor. Tune in to classic 1220.ca and listen to some great music. Dr. Craig Hogan and I return on the other side as we continue this fascinating topic. It's a feast for thought. We'll be back on the other side. Don't go away.
So I was watching the X-Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
And welcome back. Dr. Craig C. Hogan is my special guest. And if you're wondering where you've heard the name SeekReality.com from, let's go back down a few years ago. Roberta Grimes was on the show. In fact, all her shows that she did with us on the network are still available by going to xzbn.net. And we're so happy Dr. Craig Hogan is with us tonight because, Craig, this is one of the most fascinating topics and conversations I've had in a long time. So thank you very much for being here, my friend. Craig, if we choose to come to this specific time and place and dimension, would it be fair to believe that we were at another place in time earlier in the history of this planet, or could we be somewhere else, another planet, another dimension, another universe?
Now, we as individuals have come here one time. This is our only time here.
Okay.
And we developed here. So we're developing our personalities and our memories and our attitudes. And so we will carry that with us into the next life. So this is our they call the Earth School the nursery, that this is where we develop. But ourselves, our higher selves, which are what we're part of, we are individuals who are part of the higher self, and the higher self has always existed. It's always had individuals coming into Earth School, and so that's where the individuals will come that are planning their lives for a particular period. They wanted to come in during Queen Elizabeth's reign, or they wanted to come in the year 3050, and so then they will come in. They will incarnate here. When they come in and they learn lessons from this new environment, they're going to share them with us, who are also part of the higher self. We will be individuals, but we will at the same time learn from them. We'll be maturing. We'll be becoming as a result of what they experience.
So does that leave us to believe that the future has already happened?
Yes. So if you know anything about Herman Minkowski was the tutor or the professor for Albert Einstein. And when Einstein came up with his theory of relativity, then Minkowski said, well, what this is this is space-time. This is one. There is space and time together, and they're in a huge loaf of bread, and our experiences are somewhere in that loaf. But we can go into any of the loaves, part of the loaf. We can go into the future. We can go into the past. Everything is in that loaf, and it's all space-time. And that's one of the reasons that we can see things thousands of miles away. It's all why we can experience past life regressions and know things about other people's lives. And psychics can know things that they couldn't know about somebody else's life, but it's because the information is out there, and we have precognition. We're able to see the future as well as understand the past. All of these things are in that huge loaf that is space-time, and we're able to take things out of that if we're able to cue them up. That's the difficulty. We have to be able to cue them up from that huge loaf. And so if we could cue up anything. We could cue up the thoughts of George Washington as he crossed the Delaware here in the United States. And we could cue that up because that exists. Everything exists. It's all in that one big loaf. We just have to be able to cue it. And that's the difficult part.
I could just hear George now. Martha, you put my teeth on the floor and the termites have gotten into them again. So if the future is already set, Craig, why do we need to come here?
Yeah,
because all we need to do is go to their library, pick up the book or the video and say, okay, point.
Yeah.
Why put us through all these trials, tribulations, and stress, and pain, and suffering, and joy?
Yeah, our souls chose to do this, so that this is all planned the way that we wanted it to be. But when I say that the future and the past already exist, they're already in that loaf. They are evolving all at the same time. In other words, that whole loaf is evolving. So everything that's happening then is contributing to what's going on in that loaf. And so one of the things that happens is when people see the future, when they have precognition, they see things in the future. And what they're doing is they're seeing them a distance away. By the time they come to the point of coming into now, then they may have changed. Some parts of it may have changed because of the fact that everything is always malleable. It's always changing. And so anything that could happen in the future, we still have free will. We still are making our own destiny. It's just that if we wanted to look at what's there, then we can see what's there.
So the future isn't set.
No. The future is available for us to look at, but it is not set. And that's very difficult for us to understand. So we think of that loaf as being something which is substantial and it's already set, and we know which end is the heel, but it's not like that. The whole loaf is evolving all the time. So everything is happening, and we can go out there to that loaf and we can grab something out of it, but we may find that it's going to be different when we come to that point. in precognition.
You know, as a father and a grandfather and a great grandfather, I love my children, and we had one of our grandchildren pass the day before she was supposed to come into this world.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to a child on the other side? Like, will I see little Emma when I go to the other side or to the source? Will she be there?
Yes, she will be there. And all the children who didn't come to term.
Mhm.
That could be from an abortion. It could be from an early stage miscarriage. It doesn't matter what it is. If that child that would have been born is loved by the mother,
Oh God, yes.
then they will be born in the life after this life. And we've had many, many examples of reunions that people have had with their children that they didn't even know were there because they had
Wow.
a miscarriage. And so we have a wonderful story of one woman who came through to her husband regularly. He actually was from the UK, and he was a professor at the university there. And she came through to him and would speak to him regularly. And one of the things that she said was that she was amazed when she got there because there were two children. Actually, they were young adults by then. They were 22 years old, whose names were Sybil and Peter. And Sybil and Peter came up to her and introduced themselves to her, and they said that they were her children. She was their mama. And that was the first that she had realized that their children had been born in the life after this life and were living there. So we will have reunions with anyone whom we love. So if we loved that child before it was born, then we will have a reunion with that child when we go on to the next life.
So we age when we're on the other side.
Yes. So what happens is when we go to the life after this life, we who are elderly, us old folks,
Yeah.
We're going to be having bodies that are in our late 20s or 30s, whatever it is. And and we have many, many instances of that. And not only of people communicating back to us saying that that's what their body's like, but also of visions that people have of their loved ones. And they're surprised to see they look like that looks like that old photograph of grandma that I've seen. And she was so young. And so when we go on to the life after this life, then we will have very substantial, normal bodies that are able to do everything that we're able to do now. And so we will grow into that. If we were elderly, then we will have those bodies. If we're children, if the children pass, then they will grow up to that age. And then they'll have reunions with their loved ones, with their parents.
Craig, as always, time flies so fast when you're with us. I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. What are your final thoughts and words for the X Zone Nation tonight?
The most important thing is that everybody must realize that we are eternal beings having a physical experience, that we live on after the body dies, that there's no doubt about that anymore. We know it to be true because we have people coming from the afterlife speaking to us and imploring us to believe, to realize the fact that we will not die. There is no death and there are no dead.
Dr. Craig C. Hogan, www.seekreality.com. Thank you very much for coming on the show. And please give my very best to Roberta.
Certainly will. It's been a pleasure.
Take care of yourself, my friend, and I look forward to the next time you and I have another fascinating discussion here on the X Zone. Take care, and thanks again, Craig. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour has been Dr. Craig C. Hogan. What a gentleman. Wow. What a conversation. Thought-provoking, to say the least. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. I'll be back.